Okay, gonna make a video in my car today because the weather has been a little crazy lately, and we've gone from being 70 last week to 20 and 30 this week, and the wind is blowing, and it's the audio outside is not that good, so you can kind of see a little bit of the view, but the car is the best today. The subject today is going to be teen pregnancy. There's a lot of different directions that I could go with teen pregnancy, but I think what I'm going to do is just give you a few statistics, and these statistics are just basic statistics. It's not to bash anybody. It's not to say, oh, well, but this, but that. There's a lot of buts and a lot of what ifs and a lot of things, again, that and topics that I could go down on those roads, but I'm just going to go the basics for statistics, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, and then really it's a call to parents of kids who end up pregnant unexpectedly. So statistically speaking, the US still has the highest amount of teen pregnancy, even though it has come down over the last few years. We are the highest teen pregnancy and abortion for girls between the ages of 15 and 19. It's around 1 out of every 3 teenagers that ends up pregnant. 1 in 4 women end up pregnant at least one time before they are the age of 20. Often they are pregnant by men that are over the age of 18, so older men. And again, that's not to bash anybody. There's all kinds of what ifs that could go along with this, but those are statistics. They're over the age of 18. 51% of them are less likely to graduate. It is the number one reason that kids drop out of high school is pregnancy. Statistically speaking, overall, they earn less money over time. They're often embarrassed because they can't afford things because they earn less money. And so the kids are often, not the most presentable, I guess you could say. Transportation is often an issue because if you are 16, 15, you don't have a car, you don't have a driver's license in some places. And even if you did, you don't have the money for a car. And if you are in a community or in a family situation where you can have some help, that's one issue. But if you don't, maybe you live in a city that has public transportation, but that's also not the case for everybody. Even in some of the major cities, they don't have a good metro transportation system. And so even to get a pregnant person to a doctor's appointment or to a store for milk or groceries or any of those things, it's often difficult. As I said, finances are often less, and they'll say, oh, we'll just go get a job. Okay, well, you don't have a car and you don't have somebody to watch your baby. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, depending on your situation and circumstances. But then let's talk about childcare. So statistically speaking, it's super expensive to find childcare. Even in a lot of 2-parent households these days, the mom stays home strictly because anything that she would make in a job would go to childcare. So it doesn't make any sense for her to go to work when she can be at home with her kids. A lot of these girls with teen pregnancy are in abusive relationships, controlling relationships. It doesn't have to be physical abuse. It could be mental abuse. It could be verbal abuse. It could be emotional abuse. And so they don't ask for help. They don't want anybody to know that they're in that situation. They're not allowed to leave their home in that situation. So statistically also, they often do not get prenatal care or have proper nutrition. That's also a big one, because if they can't afford it and they're trying to do everything on their own, there's a lot of teen moms that do not have the proper nutritional intake that they need for them and the baby. My story in particular is a little bit different than that because I am a teen mom. I had baby when I was 16. And unlike a lot of other teen moms, everyone that knew I was having a baby was super excited about it. There was never a conversation of maybe this isn't the best idea. How are you going to finish school? Well, I wasn't even going to school at that time. Again, story for a different day. But none of that was ever ever talked about. It was just, oh my gosh, you're having a baby. It's fantastic. It's great. And there was never a discussion about or a thought about abortion. There was never a thought or a discussion about adoption. There was just never. It was like, oh, you're 16, but you're having a baby. This is fantastic. This is great. And, you know, life went on. Now, that's not everybody's story. And I also think and want to add that many times when there's a teen pregnancy, we think about 9 months out, there's going to be a baby. And that's true. And you're going to need diapers, and you're going to need bottles and car seats and clothes and all the things. And it's really hard. Being a parent is hard on a good day in a 2-parent home when you're 35. It's a completely different issue when you are a single parent, a teen parent, on your own, in an abusive relationship, any of the other circumstances that can happen, that it's just hard. And so we often forget that the baby is then at one point going to be a toddler, and then they're going to start school, and then they're going to be 10 years old, and then they're going to be 12 years old, and then they're going to be teenagers. And then how is the life going to perpetuate from then on out? We often, I think, forget and overlook that. We think about, oh, that there's a baby, and then I think the conversation often stops there. And it continues to be hard no matter what. So like I said, my story personally, my family was super excited. My mom was super excited. My daughter's grandmother on her dad's side, excited. They were all over the moon. It doesn't change the fact that I was 16 and I was having a baby. And there's a stigma of when you are young and you are having a baby. Now, I am older and I am a grandparent, and I've been in the medical field for a very long time. And I will say this: I do not condone, recommend, or promote teen pregnancy. However, there are 16-year-olds that should not have babies, and there are 36-year-olds that should not have babies. There are 16-year-olds that are better mothers than those in their 30s, and there are obviously better mothers in their 30s than there are at 16. So it is definitively a case-by-case situation. But overall, the stigma when you are a teen mother is automatically that you're promiscuous, you are dumb, you're irresponsible, you probably party too much, you're probably on drugs. If you have more than one child, they probably have more than one baby daddy. And in addition to that, most of the time, there are rare cases, but most of the time, the dad in the situation doesn't stick around. Again, not going to go down that, and I'm not here to bash men and all that stuff, but it's just statistically speaking, the men often do not stay. And so those stigmas stay with you past walking around being pregnant, past having a newborn. When your kid goes to school and you have other issues that you have to do with your children, that stigma, the whispers behind the back, the points, the people talking about you instead of helping you, the times that I was in the doctor's office because I thought my daughter had an injury and she fell, so I took her to the doctor and they went to call her back, and I stood up to go with her, and they're like, oh, no, we need her mom. I am the mom. And so then I had a discussion, we'll call it, that I had to say and basically prove that I was her mother. And any situation that we were in was automatically assumed that I was dumb and all of these things. I mean, I could give you story after story after story, but that would make this video 10 times longer, and it is neither here nor there. But it is something that happens. And so all of those things, becoming a parent for a first time, I think we also forget that. If you're 25 years old and in love and married and all the right things, you know, financially situated because your grandparents gave you $1 million, becoming parents for the first time is, nobody knows what they're doing. Parenting doesn't come with a handbook. It doesn't tell you, you know, when your baby does this, do this and do this. And raising children doesn't come with a book. And I think we forget that. So we automatically, if somebody was 25 and married, or 21 and married, and they were having a baby, it would just automatically be, yeah, oh, it's new and it's scary, and I'm, we're here to help you, and blah, blah, blah. If it's a teenager, there's very few people that actually think about that. Like, it's just like, oh, you've ruined your life and XYZ. Which, again, not condoning teen pregnancy, but if it happens, no, it's not always the most optimal situation. But there are 20 and 30-year-olds that may be in the middle of going to college, or maybe all the situations that you could probably think of, where sometimes pregnancy unexpectedly takes you by surprise, and you have to deal with it as you go. You may not have transportation, you may not, all kinds of things. And the thing I want to say now is, again, controversial, but over the years, I have been in the medical field 33 years now. I have raised 2 kids. I have grandchildren, and I often think about, what if my mom would have been one of the people who opposed pregnancy and forced, quote unquote, me to go have an abortion, would have kicked me out of my home. Any of the things that I see women and parents do now, I look at my grandchildren and I just think they wouldn't possibly be here. My daughter possibly wouldn't be here. I wouldn't know what she was like. I wouldn't have gotten to see her live her life. And grandparents, parents, we got to do better. There's so many things out there in this world right now, in the state that it is in, that if your child comes home pregnant, or they've gotten somebody pregnant, unfortunately, however the story may be, bringing home the baby is the least of your problems. They're not on drugs. They're not in jail. There are so many other things that could be happening to them, and a baby is a blessing. It doesn't matter. Like, yes, you can look at their life and you can say, this isn't the most optimal thing, and you can be both scared and upset and frustrated for them, and the baby is a blessing. Any child and any baby is a blessing. And I know lots of girls that have ended up pregnant, that were going down the wrong path, that have completely turned their lives around because of these children. And so, in addition to that, in this day and age, with trafficking and homelessness and all the things that are happening, we can't just be so afraid or so embarrassed or scared, or whatever the terminology may be as an adult, to be like, I saw it all the time when I was in different places of my career, where these parents would be like, oh, my kid's never going to do that. Honey, your kid is going to do whatever your kid is going to do. You got to think back to what you were like as a teenager, and then realize that it doesn't matter what kind of home they come from. It doesn't matter what kind of money background they come from. It doesn't matter. Yes, you are not going to speak those things over your children. You're going to speak life over them, and you're going to want the best for them, and you're going to teach them the best. But things happen. And so having these attitude of, oh, my kid will never, and my kid's not gonna, when it happens, and it can, it's so much harder. Like, in my mind, and again, I did not speak these things over my children, but in my mind, my kid was going to come home pregnant, on drugs, and end up in jail. And it's not that I'm speaking that over them, it's that I'm not naive enough to think that may not happen, or that it could happen. So thankfully it didn't. Both of my kids made it to 18, and I always say this, my kids made it to 18, they didn't knock anybody up, they didn't get knocked up, and they didn't end up in jail. So to me, that's a win. And yes, that's a little crass, but that's just what I say all the time, because things happen. And I was a teen mom, so thank God history didn't repeat itself. But I think as parents, we've got to stop saying, my kid's never, and my kid won't, because you just don't know. And if the day comes that your kid does, and they do, and there's a baby, that's a whole human being and a whole nother life that is coming into this world that is a blessing. And I have seen so many grandparents that absolutely refuse to have anything to do with their grandchildren. And we've got to do better than that. These scared little babies that are pregnant or have accidentally gotten somebody pregnant, I say that with a grain of salt, are scared out of their minds. They don't know what they're doing any more than you did the first time that you had a baby. And so I can speak at it from both sides because I was a single parent, and I've managed to raise 2 kids, and again, I have grandkids, and there's all kinds of stories that I could say. And again, I know girls that were homeless and on drugs and ended up pregnant and completely changed their life around and quit their drugs cold turkey and literally changed their life. A baby is not the worst thing in the world. A baby is a blessing. And yes, it's going to change a few things, and no, it's not what you want for your child, but to just, as adults, stand there and see some of the things I've seen over the years, like churches refusing baby showers in their congregation at their facility because the person is married out of or pregnant out of wedlock, whether they're a teen or not, is we got to do better than that. That they need help. It doesn't matter. I mean, women can become pregnant. And again, there's all kinds of stories and reasons, but people need help. Teen moms need help. They need somebody to go to. They need somebody that they can ask questions to. And if they can't come to you, they're going to go to other people. They can end up out on the street. They can end up being trafficked. There are actual stories of generational trafficking that is happening in the United States, where the mother ended up out on the streets, ended up being trafficked, ended up being pregnant, which a lot of those pregnancies from trafficking, if they even make it full term, is a miracle in and of itself. But then they'll have a baby, and then that child ends up in the same cycle. And then if that person has babies, it ends up in the same cycle. And it can be terrible. Homeless, being trafficked, being in the wrong situation, being in an abusive situation, a lot of those things can be lessened and can be completely missed altogether if the kids have support from the parents at home. And I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying that it's what we want for our kids, but what I am saying is that we got to do better. Children are a blessing from the Lord, and we should love them. We should let these teens know, if they do end up getting pregnant and find themselves in a situation like that, that they can come to you, that you're not going to belittle them, call them names, kick them out, put them in the street, and that they have a place to call home. Because let me tell you, it is not easy. Like I said, probably a broken record, but it's not. I mean, raising kids is hard. Raising kids as a single parent is hard. Raising kids as a teen mom is hard, but it's also beautiful. It's the most beautiful thing in the world. And then when you get past all of it, and then you grow, and then these children end up doing better than you did, which is the goal of any parent. Our goal as parents is to want our children to do better than we did. That's why they're annoyed with us. We're trying to teach them. We're trying to tell them, hey, these are the mistakes I made. Don't make the same mistake I did. Whether it's finances, whether it's job, whether it's partnership, whatever the case may be, that's our job. Our job is to raise them so that they can fly on their own and that they can do better than we did. And when they do grow up, and then you get to see these beautiful little babies that are your grandchildren, it is the best thing in the world. There's nothing like being a grandparent. And anybody who is considering, if you know that you've had your child is pregnant out unexpectedly, and you're thinking and you're mad and you're frustrated, I get that. I get that what you wanted for them, you wanted more. I understand that. But please reconsider. If you are thinking about being angry and kicking them out, please reconsider. If you are embarrassed because of religion or because of societal status or whatever the case may be, please reconsider and think about that little grandbaby and how scared your daughter may be or your son, and think about how you would never want anything bad to happen to them, and that you can help them so much more, and the chance that they have is going to be so much greater if they remain in your home and you help them along the way than if you kick them out and leave them to their own recognizances. So until next time, take it to heart and be brave, even when you feel broken.